You're carrying a weight you don't even realise. It's not physical weight, though your back might disagree when you're moving boxes in the garage. It's the mental weight of all the stuff you've accumulated over 50 plus years of living. Every closet you can't fully open, every drawer stuffed with things you haven't touched in years. In the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you the brutal truth about your possessions and why letting go of them might be the most liberating thing you do in your 50s. Let's start with the truth nobody wants to hear. Most of your stuff doesn't matter to anyone else. Those boxes of your kids' school projects, they don't want them. They have their own lives, their own clutter, their own storage problems. That china set you've been saving for special occasions, you haven't used it in 10 years and your kids eat off paper plates. The exercise equipment gathering dust in your basement. It's not motivating you to get fit. It's reminding you of your failures every time you see it. The clothes in 3 different sizes, just in case. You're not preserving options, you're preserving shame. Here's the hardest truth. You're not preserving memories, you're preserving clutter. But it's worse than just taking up space. Your stuff is costing you in ways you don't realise. Every item you own requires mental energy. You have to remember where it is, maintain it, organise it, work around it. You spend weekends organising instead of living. You can't find what you actually need because it's buried under what you don't. You avoid having people over because you're embarrassed by the clutter. You pay for storage units, literally paying money to house things you don't use. And here's the cruelest part. You're creating a burden for the people you love. When you're gone, someone else will have to deal with all of this. They'll stand in your house, overwhelmed, trying to figure out what mattered to you and what was just stuff. Is that really the legacy you want to leave? If this feels uncomfortably true, hit like and subscribe. We're having the conversation no one else is having with people over 50. But here's why it's hard to let go. Your stuff represents who you used to be, who you thought you'd become, and you're afraid you'll never be again. That guitar in the corner, it represents the musician you were going to be. Those business books, you'll never read again. They represent the ambitious professional you once were. Your parents' furniture, that doesn't fit your style. It represents your connection to family history. The expensive gadgets you bought but never mastered. They represent the tech-savvy person you thought you should become. I worked with a man who had 3 full shelves of cookbooks. He admitted he hadn't cooked from any of them in years. They weren't about food anymore. They were about the version of himself he thought he was going to become. When he finally let them go, he said it felt like shedding a costume he no longer had to wear. Every item is tied to an identity, a dream, a version of yourself. But here's what I've learned. Holding on to the stuff doesn't preserve the identity. It just clutters your present. But here's what happens when you start letting go. Something magical occurs no one talks about. You don't lose yourself. You find yourself. You don't lose your memories. You make room for new ones. You don't become less. You become more. Physical space becomes mental space. When you clear out that spare room, you're not just creating physical space, you're creating mental bandwidth. Every item you remove is one less thing competing for your attention. You start to breathe easier, literally. Your home feels lighter, and so do you. You discover the liberation of owning less, but enjoying more. That one good coffee mug becomes more satisfying than the 20 mismatched ones cluttering your cabinet. The clothes you actually wear and love become more enjoyable than the closet full of maybes. Think about your computer. When it's overloaded with too many programs running in the background, everything slows down. That's what clutter does to your mind. When you close those extra programs, when you let go of the clutter, suddenly you're running faster, smoother, lighter. You stop being a curator of stuff, start being a curator of experiences. Energy that was trapped in maintaining, organising and working around your possessions gets freed up for what actually matters. Here's what fills the space when you let go of what doesn't matter. Room for new hobbies you actually have time to pursue. Space for people to visit comfortably. Mental clarity to focus on relationships instead of reorganising. Freedom to move, travel or downsize without the overwhelming task of dealing with decades of accumulation. When you realise that the things you thought were preserving your past were actually preventing your future. At our age, we don't have unlimited time left. Every day spent managing stuff you don't need is a day not spent on people and experiences you do. Decluttering is a crucial part of reinventing your life after 50. If you want a complete guide to simplifying and redesigning your next chapter, download my free Reinvention After 50 guide using the link in the description below. So how do you actually start? Here are 3 rules that make it manageable. Rule 1. The 1-year test. If you haven't used it, worn it, or thought about it in a year, it goes. No exceptions, no but what if scenarios. Rule 2. The joy versus obligation test. Does this item bring you joy when you see it? Or does it create a sense of obligation? Joy stays, obligation goes. Rule 3. The legacy test. Ask yourself, if something happened to me tomorrow, would I want my family to have to deal with this? Imagine your kids walking into your home tomorrow and having to sort through it all. Would you want them to? If the answer is no, deal with it yourself now. Start small. 1 drawer, 1 shelf, 1 corner of 1 room. Don't try to declutter your entire house in a weekend. That's overwhelming and you'll quit. For sentimental items, take photos. You can preserve the memory without preserving the physical object. For expensive items you never use, sell them. Let someone else get value from them, instead of letting them depreciate in your closet. And here's something important. It's okay to grieve as you let things go. You're not just losing an object, you're saying goodbye to a version of yourself. That's normal. Honour that feeling, then let it pass. Here's what I want you to understand. Decluttering after 50 isn't about loss. It's about choice. You're not getting rid of things because you have to. You're choosing what deserves space in your life. You're not becoming less, you're becoming more intentional. Every item you keep should earn its place by adding value to your daily life. The goal isn't to live like a monk. The goal is to live like someone who knows what matters. Your stuff should serve you, not the other way around. At our age, we have the wisdom to know the difference between what we need and what we think we need. Use that wisdom. You spent decades accumulating. Now you get to spend your time curating. You get to decide what stays and what goes. You get to create space for the life you want to live now, not the life you thought you wanted 20 years ago. The weight you've been carrying, you can set it down. The clutter has been stealing your peace. You can reclaim it. Your home can become a sanctuary instead of a storage unit. And you can become the curator of a life that truly reflects who you are today. Start with 1 drawer. Start today. Cheers.